The May Altenew release is now available, and it is filled with stamps, dies, stencils, embossing folders, embellishments, and even crafty aprons. Hi everyone, I'm Rebecca Keppel, and in today's video I'll be sharing a whole bunch of the May Altenew release. And I have a ton of cards to share, so I am going to jump right in and I'll let you know what the new products are as we go. But I did want to let you know that these crafty aprons are fabulous. They are completely adjustable around the neck, and there's a tie that is quite long around the back. There are two big pockets right here that you can see that will carry a whole bunch of crafty items. So let's dive right into the card making, and I'll share those new products along the way. First up, let's take a look at the Craft Your Life kit called Treasured Memories. This is a beautiful combination of stamps, dies, stencils, and embossing folders. So this large floral arrangement is the main image here. There are also tons of sentiments available. The dies cut out all of the sentiments as well as that main image. And here is the 3D embossing folder that's called Botanical Memories. Next up, we have the stencil set. It's very easy to color in this image, so we're going to start by conditioning the stamp with one of the Altenew conditioners, and then I'll ink it up with some black ink and stamp it with the stamp wheel. I'll keep the stamped image in the stamp wheel so I can use that sticky mat to hold the stencil in place, and then where the stencil's not touching the cardstock, I do have some tape to hold it in place as well. I have one of the detail blending brushes from Altenew and some of their gorgeous inks, and I'm blending with the darkest parts being at the center of the flower and then the lighter parts going out. Next, I have another color there that's Berrylicious, and that just adds some detail. So you can see that the stencil is both these larger open spaces of the petals, and then there's detail spots where you're coloring in detail areas of those petals as well. So you can use a slightly darker ink, and that is why some of the Altenew inks are so fabulous, because they come in a set, or you can buy them in a set of lightest to darkest, and it's usually 4 colors. So that's really nice to have if you ever struggle with what colors of ink go together. They have it all planned out for you. So if you want to get a set of greens, you can get the entire set from lightest to darkest of a color that you like in that green area, and then they'll all blend really beautifully together for stencils like this or layered stamping. I also have the Treasured Memories 3D embossing folder, and I'll emboss a background. I'll also stamp a sentiment and die cut that out. Here's that embossed background. This is the gold splatter from Altenew that I absolutely adore this. I've used it many times. I just like to take the nozzle out and use it to tap some gold splatters on top of. I did die cut the floral arrangement as well as the sentiment like I mentioned. I'll place it sort of in the upper right hand corner so that I have room for that sentiment and you can still see some of that embossing. Then I'll flip this whole thing over and then just trim off anything that hangs off the edge there. And this is really easy to do with a pair of nonstick scissors because there might be some adhesive back there depending on how you adhered your flower to your card. But I absolutely love the ability to color in an image like that in a matter of minutes because you're just doing ink blending with a stencil. These are the new Sandy Blush Enamel dots, and I'll just use a few of those around the image. You can see that the image is popped up, so I'm able to tuck the little enamel dot underneath a couple of spots there, and I think it goes really nicely with the little berries or little tiny buds that you can see in that arrangement as well. And there are also little hearts that you can use next to the sentiment like I did here. Next up, I have the PixelGrid cover die. You can see the image to the right. It cuts out this PixelGrid, and I did use a little bit of the tool-in-one brush to get out some of those extra squares. Now I am blending a rainbow on a piece of A2 cardstock, and I'm using a bunch of different Altenew inks to create this rainbow, as well as their brushes, to create a blended effect where the colors kind of blend from one to the other. I go over the last color a bit with the new color that I'm using so that it can really blend together and not create any harsh lines. I absolutely love this green. It's so pretty. And then I grabbed a cube that I had for the blue because I wanted it as bright as the other colors that I had. There are some spots where you can add some liquid adhesive here and then place that down onto the rainbow background and let that dry. For the sentiment for this card, I did pull out the Whimsical Wreath Builder stamps and dies. I conditioned the stamp and stamped the circular hugs stamp and then cut it out with the circular die. Next, I added some foam adhesive on the back and decided to pop that up. And I felt like it needed just a little bit more, so I stamped sending in embossing ink and embossed it with white embossing powder, and then used some black foam squares behind that and added that to the top of that hugs sentiment, just because I didn't really want to add anything else to that pixel background, so I thought the two sentiments worked really well together. Next up is the Streamlined Sprig die set. I absolutely love this die set. It is a very deco kind of look to it. And so I decided to cut the outline in gold mirror cardstock. And then I'll just add a little bit of liquid adhesive all around the back. And then I cut out the entire thing out of 3 different colors of cardstock, and I'll add those elements to the back of the sprig so that it looks like it's all outlined in gold, and then there are these colors in the center, which it makes it really easy to put this together, but it has such a glamorous look to it. So I did grab the Deco Greetings stamp set, conditioned the sentiment. I'm stamping it on an A2 piece of white cardstock exactly where I want the sentiment to go, and it says, "You are so glamorous." I thought that was absolutely perfect. I popped up the 3 sort of leaves of the sprig, and that completes this card. Clean, simple, very deco looking, and I love it. Next up, I wanted to show you 2 different ways to use the Essential Textures Gilded Marble Press Plate. I love this. This is such a handy press plate to have because marble is such a phenomenal look for a background. So for the first card, I am going to ink up the press plate with the BetterPress inks in a rainbow of colors. And then I'm going to run that through my die cut machine with all those colors. For the second one, I'm using the glimmer machine. I have a little bit of foil taped down to some white cardstock, and then I'll run that through my die cut machine. So both the BetterPress and the glimmer machine work with those press plates. Next, I have the Deco fan. So that is a foil plate, and I'm going to foil that up as well so that you can see all the different ways you can use these foil plates or press plates. So the Deco fan, absolutely gorgeous. I did it in rainbow gold and like a fuchsia. And then for the marble, I have it in gold, the fuchsia, and the rainbow as well. So really, really gorgeous how those press plates come out in the glimmer machine as well as in the BetterPress. So now let's use some of those backgrounds in cards. For this one, I have the Streamlined Sprigs die set. Again, I've cut the outline out of black cardstock, and then I have a couple of different colors of cardstock for the sprigs themselves. Once again, you just put a little liquid glue on the back of that outline. I have the Deco fan foil plate, which I've cut down to 4 by 5 1/4, and I'm matting it on some of the same blue cardstock that I used on those sprigs. Once again, I really love those sprigs popped up, so I put a foam square on each of the sprigs. Don't worry about the little stem. You don't have to worry about that. This time I've stamped "Have a Dazzling Day" on white cardstock, but I am cutting it down into a sentiment strip. I'm using some foam squares to pop that up as well. I think that Deco Fan foil plate makes such a stunning background, especially with gold foil. For this next card, let's use the Essential Textures Gilded Marble with the rainbow background. I have another one of those Whimsical Wreath sentiments. This one says cheers, and I'll cut that out as well. Then I have this black cardstock that I used to cut out the sprigs. I cut down the gilded marble to 4 by 5 1/4 so I could mat it on some black cardstock. I think the rainbow looks great with the black cardstock and then that black sentiment as well. It just really pops off those colors. Next, let's use the gilded marble that I foiled with gold foil. So I have this sentiment from the Dotted Mandala stamp set, which you'll see in the next card, and I'm stamping Thankful for You. I decided to do it in kind of a bright coral pink, just for something different, and I like the way pink looks with gold. So I did cut that gilded marble down to 4 by 5 1/4, and I matted it on white cardstock and then cut the sentiment down to a strip and put that on top. Here's the Dotted Mandala bundle that I mentioned in the last card. So this stamp set is a layering stamp set, but it's very easy to line up. I'm conditioning these stamps because they are brand new and then inking the first layer up with some Ocean Breeze ink. Absolutely gorgeous. See how the dots, the larger dots on the outside, fit right into a circle of dots from the first stamp. It makes it really easy to line up. No problem whatsoever with the second stamp. And then for the third stamp, I will use a little bit of yellow ink. So this is a really bright, fun color combination, and it made me think of a birthday party. So the die set actually has the outline die and then a mandala, dotted mandala as well. So for this one, I'll use the outline die outside the stamp set and cut it out. And I liked that on its own, and that would be fine. So I stamped Happy Birthday from that Dotted Mandala stamp set and put it on some white cardstock and then cut that down to a sentiment strip. But I felt like it was missing a little something, or I just really wanted to try the die, I guess. So I cut the die out of the corners, diagonal corners of an A2 piece of white cardstock, and then adhered it down to a black piece of A2 cardstock. So you can just see all those dots. You could do this on top of different colors. You could ink blend a rainbow and then die cut it out. But I love the black and white as a really great contrast to all the colors in the dotted mandala that I cut out and popped up in the center, and then added that sentiment strip on top. Isn't that an amazing release? As always, I want to thank you so much for stopping by and spending time with me today. Please stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll see you again soon. Did you see me trying to like show you the pockets? They're just below the camera level. I guess I could film just that and then put it, oh,